Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Committee for Governance, Administration, Operations. If we can start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming. It's a beautiful spring day, and just want to make a quick comment. It's great to be back in the new gigs, and we'll talk about that more later, but just big thumbs up before we get started. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Do you hear a motion for approval? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Okay, the ayes have it. Our next item is public comment on any agenda items. We have 3 minutes per speaker. Has anyone signed up to speak on an agenda item? Anyone from the audience like to speak that didn't sign up? Okay. Well, thank you. Next, we'll go to presentations. The first is ridership trends, and I believe Mr. Fagenbaum is here to present for us.
And Mr. Chair, Steve has approached the podium. Today's presentation is to go over some of the ridership impacts from some of the more dynamic partnerships we've undertaken in the past year. We're talking about STAY-cation. Thank you, Commissioner Beckner. It's our standard program that runs a month a year. This year it's running 3 months, so we've seen some really interesting uptick in usage, so we wanted to discuss that today. We also wanted to talk about the use of our taxi voucher program that we kicked off on the 1st of January. Thus far, this program is made possible by a grant from FDOT. And to stress to folks, we're able to partner with Yellow Cab on service that we did not have any idea that we would be providing. And by that I mean we do excellent service within the bounds of the ADA. You're calling a day in advance. You have the hour parameter in which we book your trip. We have our on-time performance window. We continue to offer that. We continue to have just as many folks who are working for us and more hours and miles actually as we're improving on-time performance. Being able to partner with Yellow Cab gives us a same-day option. This was not something we contemplated being able to do, and frankly, it's not something that most transit agencies in the U.S. operate as a service that they do. So this is a very exciting add-on program, and it expands what is available to our folks in Hillsborough County, lets us focus on our core business, but provide this dynamic and innovative type of service that we've committed to bringing to you. So take it away, Steve.
Okay, that's first presenter in our new place.
You have to turn on your microphone.
Yeah,
I can hear the one person.
And a little housekeeping on that before you begin, Steve. Just a reminder for all of us on the board. We don't have the old technology anymore, so if you would like to comment or have a question, just get my attention or ring in because we are always live. So thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Steve Fagenbaum. I'm Director of Service Development, and as Ms. Egan stated, I am here to just give you some brief facts about our ridership trends for our 2 programs, STAY-cation and the Yellow Cab or taxi voucher service. And there we go. Okay, I was going to ask how we get to that. Do I still just hit the key to advance the slide?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right. So yeah, STAY-cation and the taxi voucher. Just first off with the STAY-cation program. The STAY-cation program we've had established for a few years. Can you hear this okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
That started in 2010. It's good for any middle school or high school student under 18 with a valid ID. They can ride for free on any of our local Metro Rapid or Flex routes. And in between 2010 and 2015, the program went 1 month, basically during the same month as spring break. This year, as a pilot project, in coordination with the Hillsborough County Schools in Hillsborough County, that program now will run from March 1st through June 10th. If you go back a little bit, here's our STAY-cation numbers historically. Now, in the first 3 years, STAY-cation was in April. The schools were out for spring break in April, and apparently April was a little bit better month. And then when we had March was a little bit less than April, but if you look at the far right number. This year, with additional marketing and the emphasis that Staycation will run a little bit longer, the numbers on Staycation are up. So we're going to be monitoring this, and we will be presenting the numbers as we go through the year, right up until June 10, when the program is scheduled to end. So maybe we just stop right there. Now we have more, believe me.
All we have to do is flip our screen up and get it.
Oh, you got that?
We've all got it for you.
Okay, well, if you all have it but me, I can go ahead and flip to that one. The old-fashioned way here. Oh, okay. Oop, wait a minute. Going back. Okay. So, okay. Then we have this year. This chart represents this current. Okay. No, I got to go back. No, actually, I'm going to go back one more. So I did have another Staycation. And then how do I go backwards? Well, anyway, on the other slide are the weekly numbers. Again, we're going to be monitoring those as we go through the year. But the numbers right now look for Staycation. They look like they're good, and we'll be again monitoring that to make sure that we're getting everything counted, and that whether or not we'll want to go ahead and maybe perhaps in the future see if that same program of additional Staycation months will be continued. In the HARTPlus and HARTBus, right now we've had over the last 2 years we've had about a 2% growth annually in bus, but paratransit HARTPlus has been up over almost three times as much as an annual rate, about 6% per year. So we've been getting quite a bit more demand for HARTPlus. These are more expensive trips, and these are the trips that we're really, in fact, not really. We are targeting those with the Yellow Cab program. See, some of those years in 2011, paratransit HARTPlus was up over 17%. Last year, we went up almost 7% in HARTPlus. Okay. This year, in the first quarter of HARTPlus, we were up 8%. But in the second quarter, when the taxi system came in, we're down 3.2%. So obviously, to go and have a turnaround of that type, we had to have had some impact by the taxi voucher service. And what we have is, with the two programs together, if we take our how many people we actually did on HARTPlus and the taxi, our total came up. That's our column total, and then the HARTPlus projected. That would be what we had as we had projected for that month prior to the year. On our first month, we actually had a decline in ridership between the two. And strangely enough, the same number, 985 additional trips this year. So obviously, we have been able to go with the voucher service. We're able to go and accommodate not just the growth, but a little additional growth. Our projected plus some additional growth that we experienced because of the taxi service. And also, if you look at FY 2015, our average trip length is about 8 miles. If we take the first quarter of this year, it's about 9 miles. Well, the second quarter, it went down. The taxi service is about 4.3 miles because it's structured such that we encourage really the shorter trips on the taxi voucher service. So if it's having its desired effect, we pretty well stemmed the growth of HARTPlus, plus we're able to go and accommodate some additional growth. So in that sense, it's really been thus far 3 months, and it's hard to make some judgments on trends and so forth after just 3 months. At this point, it looks like it's doing exactly what we had intended it to do. Stem that growth and be able to accommodate additional growth at a lower cost.
And Mr. Chair, at one point we would really like to stress is when you're looking at these numbers on taxi, when we're netting out above where our projections were, what we're seeing is not just folks are choosing to go with the same-day service. Remember, you can only bring 2 grocery bags on HARTPlus, it's 88 regs. but you can bring a community of life on the cab. We're not just saying that. We're seeing folks who are taking several more trips than they had been taking when it was on HARTPlus. So we've been culling through our data. We have an anecdote that Ms. Reyes-Burkhart shared last week of a dialysis patient who, prior to this voucher program, was riding us 50 to 55 times a month. January, his usage was in the 40s. February in the 30s. But if we speak to him, he's taking just as many trips. He's going just as many places. So, again, it's not just folks who are choosing to take the same-day trip as opposed to booking in advance. It's they're taking trips they weren't asking us for in the first place, because sometimes that calling in advance and booking at that hour window is not going to work for you. Another point for us to stress, we make you book in advance even when you don't know what time you're going home. So if you're going to the doctor's office, most of us guests will go for maybe 45 minutes or an hour. If it runs over and you have driven yourself, clearly you can leave when you feel like it. If you're taking the bus, you look at the schedule. With HARTPlus, you're hard booking to go, you're hard booking to come home, and if that come home time fluctuates, you call dispatch, you work on that trip. So we just don't have that flexibility to say, oh, here's your discretionary trip to add that day. And we're clearly seeing folks are taking advantage of it, and they like this service, and they're voting with their feet, as it were. So we're very happy to see that kind of usage and to see the overall number of trips getting out in our community is increasing in a way that seems to just work better for people.
We'll continue to monitor both services, the STAY-cation and the taxi voucher service, and we'll be back sometime in the future with an additional report.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions?
Thank you, Steve. Are there any questions?
I've got a couple. That was great. This is wonderful news. I do have a few questions on this. So on the STAY-cation in particular, it seems like it's been very successful this year, and we've got a lot of ridership on it. Is there any thought, or have we thought about expanding this program into summertime usage when our students are out of school and need to get to different places, or maybe considering the bus line as an option to go places when they're out of school? That's my first question.
Well, I will tell you, Mr. Jacobs, that's the intent of when we rolled this out and expanded it, is to look at, in fact, that's why we went from 1 month up to the 3 months, because the vision that I would have is that this would become a continuous program that we would be able to offer to our students. So I'll let Ms. Egan, I think we were looking at analyzing the numbers once we got through with June 10th, and then going beyond into the summer, and also possibly then looking at what the schedule would be like afterwards.
Yes, sir. And Director Jacob makes an excellent point. What about running this through the summer? Currently, students here at Hillsborough County can buy the Summer Blast Pass, which is $35, and it covers students historically from May 31st through the end of August. Now this year, since STAY-cation runs through June 10th, we're still running the same promotion, but targeting it to that smaller window that students would be using this. And again, $35 for the whole summer is a really good value. It still implies that students have access to getting that $35 pass. Since we kicked off this expanded pilot program, we've heard from a lot of community resources, and specifically the summer nutrition programs, trying to see what they could do to get a program extended in the summer, because these are programs targeting students who are food insecure at home, most likely not to have a bus pass, but they need breakfast and lunch. So not just getting kids to volleyball or getting to a park, but for other life activities. And a point that the mayor made of his State of the City program last week was the expansion of park hours and the availability for kids to be at parks gives them an alternative to some other behaviors, but you have to be able to get to that park. So what we had wanted to do was see what would happen with ridership if we pushed it out for the 3-month window. If it becomes a learned behavior for students, not a one-off, what kind of numbers does this come back at, so we can go to our friends at the county and the schools and start saying, what's the price tag for this? Again, we just got an email that last week we did 17,000 trips on STAY-cation, so clearly usage is going up, and there becomes this tipping point where, it's not free. We're having to accommodate longer time at bus stops. We are cleaning up a little bit more in our transit centers, so on and so forth. So what's the appropriate price tag to put on a student trip to make sure we can continue to provide really great quality service and support? And I think that's where we will be over the summer to see if we can come to an understanding with the county and the school district what that needs to look like. So ultimately the goal being, if you're a student and you have an ID, you don't have to worry about how to get there. We will get you there. and we'll sort out the accounting after kids have gotten on the bus.
Yeah, I think that's terrific. And I mean, if you look at this I'm trying to look at this program beyond just ridership. I'm looking at it from a philosophical standpoint of think about the impact this has on offering opportunity to the young people in our community to use transit as an option for transportation. I mean, this is where we have to start in order to build what we're trying to build as a transportation network with the options that we're all talking about right now in our community. So I think this is the results of this are outstanding, and I think our discussions, Mr. Beckner, in terms of expanding program and what we're looking at is just fabulous. I think it's wonderful.
And you're absolutely right, Mr. Jacobs. This is about changing culture. As I continue to talk about people, we're a car-centric culture, and if we're going to change that, I believe that part of that change happens with our youth. And so if you can get our youth engaged in using transit, and we start putting together an extraordinarily and expanding our transit system and expanding the options that are available to our youth, that's how you start making that transition from a car-centric community to a transit-centric community. And I think it's a lot more productive in focusing our efforts on getting the youth to change their behaviors and getting others. But I mean, obviously, we have to make a large-based change. But I think it all starts with our youth.
Yeah, I agree. This is terrific. And if I make one more question on this, we'll move on to the voucher service with the taxis. How are we connecting with the taxi service? How are they trained for this particular service? I mean, is there formal training? Are we looking at how we do that? I mean, I'm just curious from again, beyond the ridership standpoint, but a service level, quality of ride standpoint. What are we doing and how's that done?
I'll ask either our Chief Operating Officer or our Director of Office Support, Rick Bracken, to come up and answer that. It looks like Steve was ready to.
Well, I can't answer any better than Ruthie. So.
Thank you. Good morning. Ruthie Reyes-Burke, our Chief Operating Officer. Our customers were engaged with us for about a year in conversation about us promoting this program. So when we finally launched, we did a mass mail out just before the start of the program. Customer service agents do provide a lot of guidance to our customers. And I'll assure you that I don't think anyone had any problem with understanding that they could call for a same-day ride once they got that taxi voucher number. Once we awarded the program, our customers were ready to start that day. They didn't even want to wait until January. So we did have a pretty easy transition from our customer standpoint to learning how to use the taxi voucher program.
And for our partners at Yellow Cab, presumably we had some level of ADA requirements in the solicitation, and they are operating Sapera over in Pinellas County. So how are we ensuring that? I think that's a question.
The customer service for Yellow Cab do have an ADA requirement in terms of understanding how to book our customers' calls, trips from door to door, from the perspective of that, yes, they were providing this type of service over in Pinellas County. Our customer is able to call there, give them our information. They do have the customer information in terms of they're registered, they're eligible, and whether they are a person that can go ambulatory in a cab or needs a wheelchair lift-equipped vehicle. So the agents there have a little bit of information about what our customer needs, and then as our customer gives them their origin destination, they're able to plan their trip for them.
And for the operators at Yellow Cab, are we familiar with their ADA training?
They do provide, yes, they do provide training to their vehicle operators as well as required part of our contract and as required by FTA CF 449, I think is the regulation. So they do have a requirement to meet the safety training regulations in the same way that our operators do when they've been on this contract.
Thank you, Ruthie.
Sure.
A quick question for either you or staff. Now that we've seen the fruits of our labor here, and again, hat to Commissioner Beckner as well, from the kind of promoting the results side or getting the message out there, what plans do we have to through social media? Maybe you guys may have already done a blast or done some info. Are there any thoughts to articulating? Because I love the partnership with the cab company, saving the taxpayer money by doing that. That theme is just incredible. Any thoughts on it?
Well, occasionally I do a Twitter rant. This one was a little long for me. It was 20-odd messages. But we launched it out through social media, and if you want to wade through, they're all numbered. We have Yvette Hammett today from the Tribune, who covers us faithfully, so that's another venue with the press information getting out there. Interestingly, we're seeing just a slightly different experience at some of our peers, so we will start, as the expression goes, taking the show on the road to other, not just transit conversations, but government efficiency presentations and getting the message out that way, trying to be in just some different channels. Within our ridership, as a numbers show, our folks have heard it, and they are taking good use of it, and they're very excited about the program.
Great. Thank you. And I think we should all, a couple questions there, just, act as ambassadors. We have this good news. Let's all go out and trumpet it. Was there a question? Sorry.
All right. In regards to the screenshot with the week-by-week staycation,
Sure.
Do we know how many? Do we have an estimation of how many of those trips, while school was in, how many were school trip related?
In the current world that we live in now, only because it's an onboarding, just a swipe or a punch button in the fare box, and it's not telling us exactly what route, but not necessarily what stop they're boarding on. We haven't been able to dig that deep yet. But our future iteration of our fare card project will give us a lot more trending in terms of this was a student, this was a free promotion, they were boarding at the school, or they were boarding after school, or heading to school, and how many transfers they made. But at this time, what we have is just general boarding and moonlighting.
The reason I'm curious is because the week of actually spring break, there was a drop by about 3,000 as far as bus rides in this capacity. But that could be a positive also, because if 6,000 rides were related to school trips, that means probably 3,000 more may have used it during spring break than when they typically did. So that's why I was curious as to if we have any.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic that it dropped that particular week, but then it continued to grow even through the last week of March and even this first week of full data in April. So perhaps there were other things that were planned during that time, or vacations outside of the area versus staycationing in our area. And, that's the only dynamic that I would put to it, is that perhaps family did things together versus riding the bus.
And Mr. Councilman, on the previous slide, you can see our ridership when spring break has fallen in April. Those are the months where we took over 60,000 trips on the STAY-cation program. March just historically has had lower ridership for us. Service-wide, April typically is a stronger month. Not necessarily this much stronger, so that's kind of interesting. But to Ruthie's final point, we kicked this off in 2010 when the economy was in a different situation, and gas was also much more expensive. And this was staycation, so the working parent did not have to take off from his or her day to get their student to these programs. So we anticipate part of the reason we might have had a softer March or spring break week is folks who 5 years ago were legitimately staying put and saying, "People watch cable." We're now going out and doing things because just the economy's turned around and gas is so much less expensive. So we anticipate we have lost some ridership to those trips, but we will be keeping an eye again. The last week I posted on the slide was that March 28th week at 14.6. The week of April 4th, we had 16,000 trips, and the last week we had 17,000 trips. It's a little surprising to us that we keep seeing it head up. It'll be interesting to see how we get through the rest of the school year.
Thank you, Susan. Okay, I think we have a few more questions. If it's okay, we just go down all that. Start with Mr. Roche. Did you have one? Or?
Yeah, and I apologize for coming in late. I missed the first part of the conversation. On the slide that has the HARTPlus statistics with the percent change and then the quarterly change, we see an 8% increase in the first quarter of the FY year, and then a negative 3.2%. Is that typical? Is that like a seasonal thing for the time of year, or and I apologize if this is...
Well, we think it's directly related that in January we launched the voucher program. So if you go to the next chart on the next page, it shows you where we added trips in January, February, and March through the taxi voucher program. So we think some people transitioned over. And though we didn't see the kind of growth in January that we were expecting or projected for the year, we did really realize it in February and in March, and continue to as we started in April. So those folks that were traditionally riding HARTPlus are really using that voucher program and moving over.
Okay, very good. So the numbers in the HARTPlus were minus the rides that went to taxi. Got it. Okay. Overall, according to the April ridership report, all modes are down an average of 5.6%, but HARTPlus is the only one that went up 3.7%. Do we know what's going on with ridership overall across the modes?
Well, I think between on fixed route, I think nationally the trend has been that the ridership is either static or staying flat or just slightly decreasing. There are a number of things that can impact that. Obviously, we think the gas prices is one reason. Obviously, people are economy is better. Perhaps they're buying cars now. There's a number of things that can affect why we're not seeing that ridership growth on bus and paratransit. I wouldn't say that it becomes more popular, but you have an aging community, you have an influx of different people coming into our community that have varying needs. We do promote the service and we do share the information out there, and by word of mouth, you do get a lot of ridership that comes towards our service. Plus, there's also the coordinated services within Hillsborough County with Sunshine Line, where some of their customers actually meet our requirements and are using HARTPlus for certain trips and Sunshine for others. So.
Okay. So the transit dependent, the handicapped, the aged are pretty much reliant on it. So we're not going to see necessarily the dip in ridership due to the gas prices and economy turning around.
I don't think you will.
Yeah.
I don't think you will.
Because actually, that's an interesting point that, so starting in October, that was our first month of really soft ridership. We were almost 10% down. So after we all had heart attacks and we checked our fare box mechanism and we compared ridership to the folks writing, our manual checks, we said, wow, that really is a big drop. We had been down a little in July and August, but we really attributed that to the rain because it is a truism. If it's pouring rain, you're going to wait the day to take that trip. So nationally, ridership started going just started decreasing in June, and we didn't see it because we had a good June, and then we had the rain. September for us was flat. I think we were 50 rides off the previous year. So October is when it really manifested for us, and credit to the service development team. They just got in and swam in the information until their fingers were pruny. And what we found in October was only 3 routes had better ridership than the year before, and they were marginal producers. We saw a 15% decrease on some of our very strong interstate routes. So buses on Florida every 20 minutes were having double-digit drops, which made no sense to us because, again, if someone is transit dependent, where else are they going? Gas getting cheaper doesn't help you if you're not driving your own car. So we started calling around to our friends. We saw the same trend in Pinellas and Orlando. And Jacksonville's numbers are a little different because they overhauled their system. They've introduced a lot of transfers. So they're showing stronger plateau. So we talked to friends in Charlotte. They had the exact same percentage loss in October. And just around the country, we're seeing the same thing. So it's improved November, December. But interesting for us is when we dig in, it's across the routes. It's not tied to routes which we historically associate with folks getting to Social Security, folks getting to TICO vouchers, routes in lower income areas. It's a softening of ridership across the nodes. It's been happening this first part of the year. It's tapering off because we're probably coming up to a new normal. Dr. Polzine has a blog that he writes and picked up on Planetizen and City Lab. And it's, part of it is the gas price, and part of it is also the change of the economy. But I don't think anyone has a really good answer. And so we specifically targeted the voice of the customer last year from August to December. Are you riding as much as you used to? Because we wanted to see what people were telling us. And the folks who were riding told us they were riding as much as they used to, if not more often. So anecdotally, what we're hearing is the folks who've stuck around are using us more, but we've shed some trips. So we'll keep looking at it, but it's, on the one hand, it's good that we're not the only one, but if everybody is in the same I don't know what's happening vortex, we still need to look at it.
Right. Okay. So it is a trend nationally. It's not just isolated to this agency. And then what we're experiencing is our HARTPlus is growing, and the other ones are pretty much going with the trend nationally.
And the national trend on paratransit is to continue to grow
Grow as well. Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bell.
Yes, as I look at the presentation that you had, it appears to me that as you brought on the new programs, it has increased our ridership considerably, and you're targeting where they're going and that kind of thing. My question is, in our regular routes, could we get numbers of the persons boarding and where they are debarking or getting off so that we can begin to look at where people are going in a certain area and probably improve the flex route or some kind of route that we can improve the service within a specific area where people are going. When we get those numbers, I'd certainly like to see that.
Yeah, so we have that data set, and it's something else that our team over in planning works through very closely. It's, we pull the information and we map it out to see what's going on. We have returned recently this year with our marketing team to a route of the month, doing promotions between social media and paper marketing, and identifying routes that maybe the ridership has been going strong, we think it can go stronger, or routes where we've had a downturn. We're also really starting to focus on the USF area because we've lost ridership up there, and this is not an area where folks have just gone out and gotten cars, so something is shifting. Moving into technology is also helping us reach folks in a different way. So we are working on what ways we can reach out and target particular services to tell folks, hey, come on, we're still here, we're still useful. But really a big deal for this is the technology, because it doesn't matter how great the route is if you can't figure out how to use it and you don't know where that bus is, right? We can be the best transit agency, which we are, of course, in the region, if not the country, but if you can't get to it, it doesn't matter. So that's why you continue to see us focus on the tools, so paying your fare by the end of the year on your mobile device, having text message or calling in to folks that you can figure out where your bus exactly is so you can plan that. And this is where we are going with our first mile, last mile that we'll be rolling out about the turn of the fiscal year, probably starting in the university area because there's such a robust ridership base to build on, and then going to Carrollwood and Brandon to try to get to that next iteration of, we know we have great service, we're telling folks about it. How do we fill in these gaps to make sure there's no reason that people wouldn't be able to take it?
So you're saying that we will be able to tell what the person board and where they get off at in a general term?
When we get the new fare media, I'll know your exact pass. I won't know it's you, but we'll have the serial number and we can track exactly that pass. Right now we can see the volumes. It's very much like looking at traffic where you see a bunch of cars get on here and get off there. You don't know if it's the same car. That's where we are today. So we can look at volumes of trips and get an idea of what's the most popular locations. And that's a great improvement in the upcoming fare program, that we'll be able to see exactly where a fare is going, and we can capture that data and plan more strongly on top of that. We're really excited for that.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bowers. Do you have a question, Mr. Becker? Thank you.
Piggybacking off of your comments just about USF, what kind of interaction do we have with the USF and their Bull Runner program?
That is a really good question. So we talk to them, we interface with them, and historically they have run their service in sort of, I don't want to say a vacuum, but they have delivered what has worked out for the students from their parking fees. We have to give credit to former Commissioner Sharp, who's up at the Innovation Alliance. He's trying to convene and working on these broader conversations of, if USF is doing Bull Runner, and we have local service, and Moffett has a shuttle, and somewhere else has a shuttle, we're duplicating a lot of effort. Can we pool resources and just have one good, fully integrated network so people don't have to say, well, Bull Runner's here and the bike share is here. How do we get to that through technology? There has historically been a sense from the passengers or the folks supporting Bull Runner that you need to have a standalone system for the students because they can't be mixed with transit. There's a perception it's not as safe. But as the student bodies continue to diversify and the ages are changing at USF, there's much less of a distinction between who is on transit and who is on Bull Runner, so that's resolved a lot of that. Plus, we have 5 cameras on every bus, and now with one bus away, you know exactly where your vehicle is. So some of the previous safety and security concerns that had been put out there from our friends at USF are not there anymore. So as we keep going through these conversations, we will keep you posted. And it'd be great just to have one great portal where everyone can go to get around that area and just make the best use of all of our resources.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you all. Good discussions. Next is, and thank you, Ruby. Next is an update on HART, the HART PSTA Joint Tiger Grant application by our CFO, Jeff Stewart, or someone saying his name. Good morning.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Lucian Campbell, I'm the Senior Project Manager for the Regional Revenue Collection Project. I'll kind of give you a quick update on where we're on that Tiger Grant. Got a few slides to throw at you, just kind of give some context. First, just a mechanics timeline as far as where we are on the submission. Final submission is due on the 29th next week. We're pretty close. We're pretty close to getting there right now. I think what's important from this slide is, we took what we did last year, and we were pretty successful last year. We made it all the way to the secretary level. We brought those lessons learned and we kind of applied it to this grant. We actually sat on a phone call with DOT, and they gave us really good feedback on how we did. We actually, if you didn't know, we made it all the way up to the secretary level. Didn't quite make that last round to get the money. But so we got their feedback, we incorporated it into this round. We made the grant request look better. We redid some of the cost-benefit analysis. Of course, this time's a joint application with PSTA, so we have a lot of their feedback too. Did a couple phone calls with Holland and Knight. They've been pretty good as part of one of our stakeholders to help us, get this thing refined and hopefully go through. Also sat through a webinar with Transform for America, listened on it with a whole bunch of other people that are going for the Tiger Grant. Gave us some time to kind of input our stuff into it too, and they gave us some good feedback. And once again, we applied it to this grant. The staff worked on it. We still have some more data points we're entering in today and tomorrow. We should have our version 5 done and passed out, and hopefully one more time. Everybody looks at it. We submit it next week. Just a quick, you've seen this slide before when I actually briefed you about the actual project before. It shows the numbers is what we have available. The Tiger Grant strategy is to replace 2 sources of funding that we already have. Bottom line, we don't want to finance this project if we don't have to. I think everybody's online with that. And we'd like to use our federal formula to buy other things, buses, stuff like that. What's not shown on this slide here is, we look at the Tiger Grant as, it's $12.1 million $12.1 million for the entire project. What we've included this time is all our costs previous or prior to the project. So, we're getting the wireless set up on the bus, using our consulting firm to help us build the scope. And that kind of helps raise our local match quite a bit. Quite frankly, we're just characterizing the cost we've already incurred on the project, not as part of the project cost, but to demonstrate that we've had a lot more skin in the game than just what you're seeing on the slide. And really, that's all I had to show you today. Any questions?
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it, Lucian. Any questions?
So, Region, Pinellas County is not doing a separate Tiger Grant.
I'm sorry, PSTA.
Well, PSTA is our partner.
Yes, ma'am.
But we're getting letters of support on this side of the bay, but also from most of the municipalities, or many municipalities.
Yes, ma'am.
So can we talk a little bit about how broad-based our support is regional?
I can't talk about specifically, sorry, but yes, we've talked to several of the NPOs, several of the boards. We got letters. Cesar's actually been pretty aggressive in going out and seeing people, talking to our federal legislators too, and our state legislators. We have a broad base of support for it, and that guy's been going out and getting letters, so it's been pretty aggressive. It's not just sitting there looking for help. Very impressed with that.
Oh, Mr.
Yeah, and you may have the answer to this. At one point, the Port Authority was looking to do a Tiger Grant. Did they end up submitting? Do we know?
They are working on an application. They are looking for funding to match CRA and port money for a complete street redesign of Channel Sign Drive as part of their master plan. So we have been speaking to them. They know that we are applying, and we know they're applying. And that just sounds pretty bad, doesn't it? But we are discussing, what are the strengths of our project. We did talk to the port about any possibility that we could look at a joint application, since the streetcar is part of the port master plan, and just looking at how much work would have to be done and trying to integrate them back and forth. We're still doing our separate application, and the port is doing theirs. So good luck to everybody in Tampa Bay, I think is where we leave it.
Have they received the widespread regional support that we have?
As I understand, they've been focusing on the Tampa side for their support. They've reached out to the federal delegation, as have we. I believe they're getting a letter of support from the full federal delegation, as we are. But I could not tell you who else they've spoken to, specifically on Pinellas. I believe they've spoken to the mayor's office, but I couldn't tell you if they're talking to City Council, Temple Terrace. A point to remember, this is the port's first year for the application, and this is our second year, and it's the third year of the overall project, so we have long and existing relationships with folks all over our area. We've been working on it a little longer. It's a little easier for us to say, hey, we're ready, and this is our final fight.
Have they approached us about supporting their Tiger Grant?
We did have that conversation. Historically, typically, you don't write a letter of support for someone else's application when you're applying. So I told them next year we would be delighted to be full-throated supporter. Thank you.
Another question, and I mean, just historically in Tiger Grants, do we see Tiger Grants, would they be inclined to fund both of these from the same area, or do they go more regional? Do they spread it out, or are they just looking at need in terms of, the two submissions from the same area? Do those get funded?
We have asked Holland and Knight to give us a little more information on this, and instead of looking at it in the same region, they are looking at this more that, ports don't usually apply for Tiger Grants because there's just different criteria that way, and there's other programs available. Usually first-year grants are not approved. I don't think a first-year grant has been approved. It doesn't mean it can't be. But again, it's an election year, and Tiger price tags are half what they were last year. It's not $10 million, it's $5 million. It's still hyper-competitive. There were still 20 times dollar requested as the applications last year, and we anticipate seeing that being more competitive this year. But that's what we know. We just can't say yes, no, maybe so how that will impact the chances of success.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lucian. Okay. Next on the agenda are committee action items. First up is item A.
Good morning, board members. It's good to be home. The first item 2A, is to authorize the Chief Executive Officer to exercise the first one-year option with our workers' comp law firm providing legal services in the workers' comp venue. We recommend that the board approve that for the full board.
Is there any discussion on that? Okay, do I have a motion to move that to the board?
So moved.
Second. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item on the agenda is item 2B, also to authorize the Chief Executive Officer to exercise the first one-year option with a board counsel contract for legal services with Ray Robinson. Mr. David Smith.
Since discussion here. Any discussion on this item, on item 2B?
Is this, from the law firm standpoint, I assume that Mr. Smith, you will continue to serve as our legal counsel for us?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So moved. Do we have a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay? All right. None. The motion carries. Thank you very much, Ms. Schneider. Next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The last item on the action items is committee item 2C, which is to authorize the Chief Executive Officer to exercise the first one-year option of the existing contract for labor and employment legal services with Allen, Norton, and Blue. We recommend approval.
Thank you. Any questions on that item? Okay. Do I have a motion to move to move? Second. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay? Any nays? No nays. The motion carries. And with that, I believe our first time back in the new space, we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.